Hello there. You probably are wondering where I'm actually at because I'm not in the normal spot, which is actually downstairs. I'm in Savannah's office today just because she's out of town, and I figured it would be a nice change of scenery. Today, we're gonna go over how I edit all of my photos for social media, thumbnails, all of that stuff on my iPad right here. Now you might be wondering, hey, don't you just play drums? And that's true, I do play drums. But in today's world with social media and everything else, it's really important to know how to market yourself well. And a large portion of marketing is being able to take good video and good photo. And in this video, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna show you how I edit my photos for all my social media stuff, all my thumbnails, everything like that. And that's why I like using Lightroom for iPad, because it's just what you need, just the basics. And for a noob like myself or anybody else just starting to get into this, or that doesn't need all the features that Lightroom for your computer does, this is great. This video is gonna be how I edit photos quickly and dirtily, is that a word? It's gonna be a quick and dirty video on how I edit all of my photos, and it's honestly not that hard. In this video, we're going to be going over, like I said before, Lightroom for the iPad. We're gonna be doing everything in the box, meaning we're not going to be using any presets from somebody else or anything like that. This is just what you get when you download Lightroom from the App Store. And the cool thing about Lightroom is it's actually free. I pay for a subscription yearly so that I get all of the features, but if you download it from the App Store, you actually get it for free with some limitations. But you can do everything in this video with the free version, so if you want, you can go ahead and download it right now. Pause the video, download Lightroom. When it's downloaded, come back here, hit play, and then we'll go over how we edit on the iPad. We're in Lightroom right here, and if I swipe over, you can see that I have 3 photos. I have 2 that were actually taken right here, just back there. And then I have another one at a completely different location at a gig I was on a couple weeks ago. These photos were shot with 2 different cameras, so these 2 photos that were shot in here were on my Canon R6, and the other photo was actually shot on my iPhone. So because of that, we'll be able to get real world applications with like a phone and all of that stuff. So because of that, you can go out, shoot some photos with your phone and bring them into Lightroom, or just edit them on your phone right here. Not even have to take an iPad or anything like that. Up your marketing quality for Instagram or whatever you're doing instantly. We're gonna start with this guy. So first photo, what I typically always do is I start with a strong S curve, which is located right here. And then click done. And the reason I do that is so that I can bring up the highlights and bring up the contrast at will. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over to this light tab right here, get the grid out. I'm gonna bring up the darks a little bit, bring the highlights down just a touch. And then what I do for most of my photos is I'll actually bring the highlights almost all the way down and kind of play with that until I like it. Now that I have the lighting the way I want, I'm gonna go over to the color tab because it is kind of green, and drag this over in the opposite direction. So if you have a photo that's a little green or a little purple, you're gonna go over to the tint and just drag it in the opposite direction. So you can tell it's already a little bit better. But I want to dial in some of the colors a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this color mix right here, and with the color mix you have all of these colors that you can adjust. So if I wanted to bring greens down or up, I could select the greens, bring them down, bring them up, bring the luminance up or down, and the hue. And I'm going to want the greens to sit right there. The floor is kind of orange, so what I'm going to want to do is bring that down just a little bit so that it doesn't compete as much with the green. And then with Lightroom Mobile, what you can do is, if you want to look at the original photo, you just hold your finger or your stylus down on the photo and it'll show you the before and after to kind of show you what direction you're going in, and if you like the direction, then keep going in that direction. If you don't, then you can kind of dial it back and figure out what went wrong. Sometimes I'll bring the saturation up just a little bit just to make the colors pop, but you don't want to do it too much, otherwise it can look really cheesy and fake. All right, now that I have the colors and the lighting set, I want the stuff on the road case to actually pop a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click on this little circle just underneath the Band-Aid, click the plus button, click this little circle right here, and I'm just gonna drag it just right there. And now I can adjust the exposure, the contrast. If I adjust the exposure with this tool, I almost always bring up the contrast. That way it doesn't look like it's washed out or anything like that. And I'll also bring the highlights up just a touch. And now, if we look at it, it pops just a little bit more. Once I have that done, moving from the color tab down to the effects, I'll add a small vignette just to pull your eyes to the center of the photo instead of not really knowing where you should be looking in the photo. If you pull to the left, you add a black vignette. If you pull to the right, you add a white. I'm gonna add just a small dark vignette, pulling your eyes to the center. And then after that, I'll go down to the next tab, which is detail. And I always bring up the noise reduction to about 20. Basically what that's gonna do is in the darks, if it's a little grainy, it'll kind of get rid of that for you. And that's basically it. This photo to me looks good. So now we're gonna go to the next photo. So for this photo, this is just a nice flat lay, but I noticed that it's a little crooked and I wanna crop it in. So what I'm gonna do before I do anything is go to this cropping tool, which is to the right, just above the Band-Aid. Click on that guy. I'm gonna straighten it. And then we're gonna crop it in just a little bit. Okay, now that it's cropped in, I'm gonna do the same thing as before. I'm gonna add that S curve. Click done. Then I'm gonna go over to my light, add the grid, and play with the exposure until I like it. Okay. I'm gonna bring the highlights down just a little bit, not as much. Okay. Color, it is a little green, so I'm gonna drag the tint over just a touch. And for this photo, I kind of want the orange. On the Florida Pop, so I'm going to go over to the color mix, click on the saturation of the orange, and bring it up just a touch, so that it can kind of pop a little bit more. I'm just going to add a little bit of teal. Mostly because orange and teal are complementing colors, and that's really pleasing to the eye to look at. And there's a little bit of teal, if you can see, in the center of this lens right here. So we're adding a little bit of teal to that guy, just to make it pop a little bit more. And when we're done with that, we're gonna go ahead and select the stuff on the case again. Bring that up so that it pops a little bit more just because it is dark. And again, to get to there, go to the circle just below the Band-Aid, hit the plus button, circle, and now get that stuff just to pop a little bit more. Bring the exposure up just a touch, bring the contrast up just a touch. Boom. Click done. Go to effects. We're going to add a vignette once again, just to pull our eyes to the center of the picture. And then again, we're going to add noise reduction And to me, that looks good. It's consistent with the vibe of the first photo. All the colors pop and it looks natural. A lot of times when you do too much or you start going down a rabbit trail that maybe isn't leading anywhere, your stuff will start to not look natural, and depending on the look you're going for, that could be a good thing or a bad thing. For my personal style and my brand, if you want to call it that, I try to keep things natural, just make the colors pop a little bit more. All right, those two photos look good. Moving to the iPhone picture. Okay, we're gonna start with, again, the preset strong S-curve. Click done, go to light, bring up the darks, bring the whites down, or maybe bring the light down. Bring the darks down just a touch. Okay. I'm gonna bring these highlights down just a little bit. All right, now we're gonna go to color. And the red in the stool is a little distracting. It's kind of taking your eye to that, and I don't want it to. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over to the color mix, select the red, and bring that saturation down. And if you see, if I bring it all the way down, the red is completely out of the photo. If I bring it all the way up, it's way, way too bright. So I'm gonna bring it somewhere in the middle, just to kind of dial that red back a little bit. And then I bring the orange up a little bit and adjust the luminance and the hue. And then again, I want to bring that teal up so that we can have complementing colors and it's just more pleasing to look at. Maybe bring the orange back a little bit. All right, so actually in the back, you can kind of tell if I bring these oranges up, it brings the orange of those lights up, and I don't want that. So I'm just gonna dial back the orange so that the back of the room doesn't look like it's bright orange, because that's kind of taken away from what you want the focal piece to be, which is gonna be the drum set. And I'd rather have the drum set pop and have less orange in the photo versus the opposite. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the snare drum pop a little bit more so that your eye kind of is drawn to that. And again, we're going to go over to the circle just below the Band-Aid, hit the plus, circle, get just the snare drum, center of the snare. I'm gonna bring the exposure up just a little bit, bring the contrast up. Okay. And now, go to effects, add a small vignette, not a huge one for this photo. And then we'll go to detail, add that noise reduction, just so everything stays not grainy. And that's basically it. And just like that, you have 3 photos that are edited. And if we kind of look before and after for all of them, here's the first one, before, here's after, before, after, before, after. So if you noticed, we're not doing a ton, we're just making everything that's in the photo pop a little bit more and making it look really natural and pleasing to the eye. And that's kind of the goal for at least my brand and everything else. I want to accent and bring up what's actually in the photo, because when I capture the photo, I make sure that everything is good, and I'm basically just taking a good photo and making it great versus trying to take a bad photo and make it good. That's all I have for you guys. If you like this video, hit the like button down below and comment and let me know so that we can keep doing more videos like this. And if you haven't yet, go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below to stay up to date on all the new videos I post on this channel right here. And with that, it's like Harry Potter. With that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.